Good evening, everybody, and welcome to today's rap session. If I can get my words right. Thank you for joining me today. We are going to be talking about the subject that is going across the nation about defunding the police. What does it mean? We're going to just answer some questions for everybody to really find out whether that's even a good idea. What does it mean? What are the pros? What are the cons? And in general, is it a good or bad idea? So I think it's important for us to just, instead of feeling our emotions first, we should find out the facts and then go from there. Now, we were supposed to have our special guest on today. However, he had an emergency has come up, so he's not going to be able to come on tonight. So what we're going to do instead is just play a little short video, 5 minutes, so you can see exactly what does defunding the police mean before you make your decision on whether you think that's a good or bad idea. So if you have any questions or comments, please put them down in the description box below, and we will do our best to, I will do my best to try to answer them. So hope that you like it.
Me here in your home, sort of.
Sort of, and the same with you. So you have you've fought for a societal change pretty much your whole career, your whole life. How do you feel about this moment right now when we're seeing people from sort of all walks of lives, all diverse backgrounds, basically risking their lives being out in the street to fight for this moment?
I am so uplifted by the response. And you're right, they are risking, everybody who goes out there and marches and demonstrations risking their life for this. When history looks back on this, when they see that literally millions around the world took to the streets during a pandemic.
Hey, I'm at home.
It gives me a lot of hope, actually. I'm in a hopeful mood right now in terms of what we're going. First of all, just with what's happened in the last couple of weeks, that white citizens didn't leave it up to Black Americans to have to go and fight this alone, and that these demonstrations, Black, Hispanic, white, Asian Americans, Native Americans, I mean, all men, women, old, young. It's the country I want to live in, if I can say that. I believe very strongly that we have to change this. I believe in defunding the police and explaining exactly what that means. Obviously, nobody wants to get rid of the police in the sense of our safety, but the way we've been doing it, it's wrong. It's wrong for the police. You know, there was an officer on one of the cable news shows this week saying 90% of their calls are for things they're not trained to do. Why not when we call 911? You know, it's not just a police 911. You call and you say, my house is on fire. They send the fire department. You call and you say, my husband's had a heart attack. They send the EMT. Why not when they call for something that's a mental health issue, something that's a drug or alcohol addiction issue, something that, I mean, you need the police, obviously, for homicide, rape, robbery, men abusing women, dangerous situations. And the ones who are trained to do that are trained well, go through a review process to make sure that we're not hiring racists. They should be embraced and paid well for taking that risk for us. I can't stress enough that this is our moment to fix this. We don't have to see another person say, I can't breathe. We can't let that happen again. We all have to commit to that.
You mentioned how we don't want to see anyone ever say, I can't breathe again. And of course, this was a case where we only saw it because someone filmed it. Yeah. You obviously, as a documentarian, try to change people's minds. Yet you, I think, would admit and have said that the young girl who filmed this made the documentary of the year.
Yes, I said that on my podcast last week, that her name is Darnella Frazier. And she made the most important nonfiction film maybe in years. This brave young girl, she's a teenager, she's a high school student, stood there with the cops with guns right there with her. Anything could have happened. And then all of a sudden, she, whatever in her gave her that bravery, that cool, calm, collected, she shot that for almost 9 minutes. No experience, no, just completely, she should be honored. I know I said this on my show that at the Oscars next year, we should acknowledge the most important nonfiction film was not by a filmmaker. But my point is that I want all young people are watching this now. You are filmmakers now. Thanks to Steve Jobs had the idea to put a camera in a phone. I would have loved to have been there in that brainstorming session where, Steve says, let's put something else in this phone. And then they're at the whiteboard. Somebody says, how about a rotisserie set? No. Maybe just a fork, spoon, and knife. No. How about a camera? That idea right there may end up saving so many lives.
Okay,
and is there an auto trader that you offer home test drives?
Yep,
hopefully
wouldn't be a problem at all.
hear that video and what they were saying about what does defunding the police mean. So I'm going to just kind of show you really quick. I will tell you what it means, and really they probably need to call it something else. It's not necessarily taking money away from the police. Now, what I have found is that depending on where you are, who you talk to, it really depends on their definition of defunding the police. Some people think defunding the police means to just take all the money away. I personally think that's the wrong thing to do. We need the police for so many different things. We had a peaceful protest a couple of weekends ago, and guys, I felt safe because, for one, they had all kind of technology and stuff out there where, they had drones flying around, because a lot of the looting and stuff that you see going on wasn't necessarily because of the peaceful protesters. It was because of people infiltrating the protests in some of these other areas. So I felt safe with our police department being there, having all different, security was tight. Everybody was there. So if you talk to another person, defunding means just exactly what that video said. And it means really allocating monies differently. In my opinion, they probably need more funding to make sure that proper training is done, better systems are done, proper vetting is done, also so that they can collaborate and hire social workers, mental health workers, to deal with some of the things that really police officers should not be dealing with. So if anybody knows the history of how police departments even got started, I want to think it was back in New York, where organized police were put together, and it was not for policing the people. Police or cops, when they first originated, were put together really to help people, help women across the street, help if something went wrong. They were there as public servants or public aides. And over time, it turned into what you see it now, where they're actually having to police people and what you see. So let me see if we have any questions here. So let me just tell you real quick, and I'm going to pull this up. It says, defunding the police does not mean eliminating all police funding. That's first of all, okay? We need them. I don't know if I wouldn't think that anybody would think that we don't need the police, because we do. Defunding the police means that the police will be funded. the police not and some people will say, well, the police does not to be need to be overfunded. Okay, distribute the city budget. Also, it means that police should focus on crimes and criminals, and police are not mental health counselors. Police are not social workers. Police are not medical professionals. Police are not education specialists. Police should not be responsible for everything. All right. So if they ever think about defunding the police, which, to be honest with you, I think they probably should call it something else. They probably should be calling it police reform or something like that. So what it does, it helps emphasize or reassess the values, investing more into the communities, investing into the people, funding the schools, funding hospitals, funding for other services, and funding the infrastructure, which is really what we need. That's part, because some of that's also policy and law, all right, about defunding the police. So understand that presenting defunding the police as the same as eliminating funding for the police is very intentionally misleading, and it is manipulative. So just so you know, I just wanted to give you, you know what, I think our special guest I think he's actually trying to get on right now. Let's see, let's give him a minute. So I didn't want this show to take very long. I wanted to just brief you on what does defunding the police mean, and so that you can research it more on your own, because we definitely can't dive into all the dynamics of it on this show. But see what other cities are doing, see what it means. I've learned of cities that are already defunding, and I hate that word, defunding, are doing a lot of police reform right now in other cities. And from what I've heard, I've seen some cities having done police reform or defunding the police years ago, and they had the right idea. It's getting the money, or really giving more money, so that we can help train the officers better and make sure that they're properly vetted, and also to bring in people for mental health issues. And I'll just be transparent. I have experienced police brutality by the police right where I live. And a lot of people don't know that, but this happened about 5 or 6 years ago. And it was dealing with really my uncle, who has a mental health issue. He was born that way. And my grandmother, who used to take care of him, she has passed away about 18 years ago. And her deathbed, she asked my family, my parents, to make sure that my uncle was taken care of. And the family did, they do the best that they can. And for the most part, my uncle is very independent, so long as he's on his meds. But every so often, he gets tired. His condition worsens with his brain. And sometimes we have issues with giving him or administering that medicine. So there have been some times where we have to call the police in order to help us get him in a car to get him to the hospital, or get him in the car to get him down to the mental health facility here. And so there was this time where my uncle was just really getting sick. He refused to take his medicine. And so we called the police and schooled them, okay, way ahead of time, of what was going on, my uncle's condition, that he was harmless, but we need to introduce you to him so that he'll understand exactly what's going on. And so long story short, the police basically came in forceful, woke him up. They busted in his bedroom and woke him up. And when he saw them, it scared him to death. And he jumped up trying to run from the police, and they tackled him. I mean, it was 3 police officers, and my uncle is but as skinny as a noodle. And he was trying to get up from them. and they tased him, and all me and my mother could do was just yell and scream and stop, stop, stop. We told you what needed to happen ahead of time, and you guys went ahead of us. And I will tell you, that happened about 5 or 6 years ago. And ever since this whole social injustice and the unrest, that moment that the police came in and tackled my uncle, tased him, and I mean, and just the look in my uncle's eyes, it really gets me emotional now, when all we needed was help for him to get to the doctor's office so that he could get the meds that he needed. But if something were in place where reforming, I like to use that a word better, reforming the police would have allowed for a mental health counselor, a social worker, maybe a doctor, or anybody to come out and help us administer medications to someone that really was ill, that did not deserve to be tackled and held down and tased because he was confused and he didn't know who they were. So that's just my own story about that. I'm not going to sit here and so defunding the police, should it happen? I don't want to use the word defund. I do think the police actually needs to go through a huge reform or a reformation, okay, about how they handle things and how they do things. So today I'm going to go ahead and wrap up the show. It looks like our special guest is not going to be able to come on, but if you have any questions, please reach out and let me know. And as always, I am here to educate, to motivate, and to hopefully encourage you guys to activate, get this information and knowledge to be more involved into your community. Okay, if there is any questions that anybody has, please feel free to reach out. Please remember to vote, to register to vote. Encourage people to register to vote and go to community meetings such as city council meetings, county council meetings, school board meetings. You need to show up to these things. Otherwise, how can you get upset when things happen, but you don't know what's even going on in your environment? So I see somebody has a question here. It says, takes a different call center to understand the differences in what kind of intervention is needed. Yeah, that might be true. We might need maybe a more enhanced call center, because if you think about it right now, people call 911 and they ask, what is your emergency? And so if a person says they have a health condition, they don't necessarily send the cops. Okay, they send EMT if it's needed. And then from there, EMT does a triage, and that they can decide whether that person actually needs to go to the hospital from there or not. So it's so many different ways you can do it. It's a lot of ways to skin a cat. Also, let's see. So all in all, to answer the question, is it a good idea or a bad idea? I think it's a great idea to do some changes in the police department, because otherwise we're going to keep seeing some issues. But just keep this in mind. Some of the issues, a lot of the issues that we are experiencing are systemic. Okay, they're ingrained into the fabrics of our Constitution and in the local laws. Okay, so we're going to have to vote people into place, elect people that can actually make a difference in the laws. I mean, so think about it. From wherever you're viewing, I think most people that are looking at this show right now is probably in South Carolina. South Carolina doesn't even have a hate crime bill. Doesn't even have a hate crime law. So if something happens, how can you convict somebody when the law doesn't exist? Okay, they've been trying to pass, politicians right here have been trying to pass a law for hate crime for, I mean, quite some time now. And it can't pass because of people on these other levels. Okay, before we vote for people, we need to look at work that they've been doing, encourage people to register to vote, because we still have presidential elections coming up, but then you know that you get a chance to vote for other people. Okay, on our last show, we saw, and it's not enough just to register to vote. You're gonna have to go out and do it. We have to be involved in our communities, okay? We saw in South Carolina, 22% of all registered voters actually came out, okay? 22% of people actually voted. So with that being said, how many of those people are actually involved? All right. One good thing about the pandemic that did come, as bad as it is, some good things came out about it, is that these meetings are being held virtually now. So it's no excuse. You can watch these meetings later because they're usually put out. So we can figure out what's going on in our area. So I thank you guys so much for joining the show today. And I'm going to leave you with a video to show you or tell you the importance of voting, okay? Because I still think that is a big issue in our community.
This how all my people feel, but we gotta learn. We complain enough. Let me change it up. Everything I just said, everybody I know think the same way. So they don't wanna see us vote, and we never do. So we see the same thing, but all our votes really do count, and they'll never really let it show. So now I'm finna break it down, cause if I don't, you would probably never know. First thing first, you know back in middle school when they told us it was 3 branches of the government. We forgot it when we got older. It's the judicial, the legislative, and executive. Well, all we know is the executive. That's the mayor, or the governor, and the president. Now, none of those 3 people make no laws. They just be checking it. The laws come to their desk, and all they do is say no or yes to it. So when the news station tried to tell us that Barack Obama couldn't put us on, we was out salty at Obama when it was the Congress members all along. We gotta focus on the legislative branch. Yeah, they the ones that make the laws. Yeah, they the ones write how much food stamp money you get on the call. But when people that wanted to help us wanted the job, I know they probably lost. Cause we ain't even know their name, we ain't know their face, we ain't know at all. For the Congress, for the state house, that's legislative, they make laws. So what we want from the president is what they do. Okay, y'all? See, they election every 2 years, but we don't never even go to those. The Congress, they can raise minimum wage, but we ain't even really know it though. So you know how back in 08, when we all voted for Obama, we was all supposed to go back in 2010 and vote for the Congress. Cause they the ones make child support laws. They the ones choose if your kids at school get to eat steak or corn dogs. The state house make the court calls. So if the country failed, then you can't say it's them, it's your fault. Cause y'all ain't know to vote for Congress members that was for y'all. And they don't gotta leave after 4 years. We just let them sit. See, they don't want to tell you this. They want you to focus on the president. Now the third branch is the judicial, that's judges. They the reason why John Crawford and Trayvon they had justice. So when Meek Mill got locked up, it's for Pop and Willies, we blame the judge and not the city. When they let her get voted in, cause they ain't know who to vote against. Imagine life on the other side. Roads better, schools better, everybody get their license back. Grocery store food better, custody of your kids back. Homeless people get new shelters. If we gon' fix the U.S., we gotta start with them 2 letters. Me and you, somebody told us that the government wanna keep us broke, but the only reason why those people in the government is cause we ain't vote. And I ain't talking about the president, I'm talking about the ones we ain't know. See, they was gonna try to keep it low, but it's gonna hurt them when they see the pros. Play fuzz. This how all my people feel, but we gotta learn. We complain enough. Let me change it up. Everything I just said, everybody I know think the same way. So they don't wanna see us vote, and we never do. So we see the same thing, but all our votes really do count, and they'll never really let